This week, I'm talking about the pros and cons of living in Hamilton, Ontario. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me again this week. Unfortunately, I am solo. I got nobody else from the team here, so I am going to cover a topic that I'm actually surprised I've never talked about in all the video series that we've done, and that is the pros and cons of living in Hamilton, Ontario. The reason I thought of this topic was because I have noticed that a lot of the views on my video are coming from areas in Ontario that are outside of Hamilton. So I thought maybe people are looking in and I can shed a little bit of light on things that I love about the city and things that I think there might be a little bit of room for improvement. But before I go ahead and do that, I want you to check out the description below. There you're going to find a link to Calendly where you'll be able to book an appointment with me, whether it's a phone call, a sit-down session, one-on-one. It syncs with my calendar, so if you book the appointment, I'll be available for it. Anyways, let's dive into it. So part of the reason I feel like I'm able to have this opinion, for those of you that don't know, I am born and raised in Hamilton. Never left the city. Even university, I went to McMaster University. So it truly runs through my veins. I love this city with a passion. And that's why even coming up with a con list was a bit difficult for me. And I want you to keep in mind, when I talk about the cons, I'm not talking about it in a necessarily critical way. They're just areas that I feel like our city could improve and make a few steps forward. But with that said, let's dive into the pros of living in Hamilton. One of my favorite pros is probably how culturally diverse this city is. Everybody from all over the world can come here and feel comfortable. I mean, we have so many cultures that mesh so well together that it creates such an amazing scene in terms of the restaurant scene. You get all these diverse restaurants, which are absolutely spectacular to try. That's one of my favorite things about Hamilton is the food. You can ask my wife. I love to eat. We love going out. And then number two, with that, it also brings in some really cool fashion to the scene and so forth. So I love how culturally diverse it is, whether you're, European or from somewhere else, London, like, I don't know. It just, you're allowed to mix in very, very easily and find something, probably a little piece of home in this city, if that makes sense. Number two, you can't talk about Hamilton without talking about the parks and trails. So we have so many fantastic trails in this city and so many amazing parks. I know last week's episode, we were talking about Gage Park. Dave Capretto is on it, how much he loves that area and he sees that it's suited for a lot of growth. Gage Park really is just one of the more beautiful parks. And it's actually, I'll be honest, I never even went down there until I was in my 20s. That's how long it took me to go and visit it, because it was just, I was from the West Mountain, and I actually regret that I never went down there sooner because it is absolutely beautiful. As well, if you didn't know, Hamilton is the waterfall capital of the world. Okay, check it out, look it up. We have over 100 waterfalls. I've seen a few of them that are kind of skeptical if that is a waterfall, but I guess it was classified as one, so it added to our ranking. But you definitely want to check out some of the super cool waterfalls that we have all across the city, a lot of which connect with some fantastic trails, whether you're looking to walk or you're looking to cycle. And I guess you can really pick up a trail from anywhere in the city. I'm going to go ahead and throw in with the trail the Hamilton Stairs. If you're not familiar with it, Hamilton has stairs because our city is 2 levels. We have a lower and we have, the upper mountain. There are stairs that you can walk that connect the upper to the lower, and they're all across the escarpment. People love doing them for exercise, but they're also a great way to get around if you don't want to take transit. Number 3, recreation and entertainment. So this is probably one of my favorite parts of Hamilton. Anybody that knows me knows that I love going out. I love trying new restaurants and just really enjoying everything that the scene has to offer. We have some really cool streets in Hamilton that are dedicated to this. Number one being Locke Street is one of the trendiest streets in Hamilton. It has amazing restaurants with a lot of just different unique styles to them. You're going to enjoy checking that out. As well, James Street North. This was a street that when I was younger, was not necessarily considered the nicest street. It was known for having a lot of older Italian and Portuguese shops and markets in it. However, in the last 10 years, it really got revitalized. What happened was a lot of restaurateurs came in and started putting up these really cool, unique restaurants and eateries and coffee shops. And it just created this vibrant scene that is something that I think I can be really, you can be really proud of as a Hamiltonian to have that in your city. Just, I think it was a couple weeks ago with Supercrawl. I went down to that. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. Went to Supercrawl, went to that, had an absolute blast. It was so much fun. And that's just one of the cool things that you get to experience living in Hamilton. And what that is a festival on that James Street North where they shut down the whole street. They just pack thousands of people in there, and it is just super, super cool. So definitely you want to check that out as well. We have to touch on it. I was going to call it Ivor Stadium. Tim Hortons Field is our stadium here where you can watch the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who are a fantastic CFL team. It's always a great environment, always a good time, full of great energy, especially when they're winning. And as well, one team that plays there that is always overlooked, and a lot of people I feel like don't even know exist, but I'm a season ticket holder too, is Forge FC, which is our soccer team that plays in the Canadian Premier League. Now, this is so much fun, super cool event. The stadium is state of the art. It has great vendors. The food's great. Just the entertainment's always good. Location could be a bit better. There's not a lot of parking, which is probably one of the biggest downsides to it, is that parking situation. But once you're there, you're at the game, you're in there, you're going to have some fun. Number 4, we have a major, well, I wouldn't say it's major, but we have an international airport. So we have an airport, John C. Munro Airport, which actually I recently just sold a house that he used to live in the 50s. Pretty cool. And that's not why I'm mentioning this. I mention it because there are a lot of direct flights that come from that airport. Like you can connect out to Vegas, Cuba, Cancun, all these destinations down south. They change the schedule seasonally. So I believe for the summer, they fly to a certain set of destinations. And then in the winter, they start flying to those more Caribbean destinations. The cool thing about it, you don't have to wait at Pearson, which I believe was recently ranked one of the worst large airports in the world, just for the way it's functioning right now. But the cool thing is there's only 5 gates at the Hamilton airport. I personally have flown to Cuba out of it, and we got there 2 hours before the flight, international flight. We got there 2 hours before. We were past security and waiting by the gate within 45 minutes. It was just really, really cool experience. My favorite part was not having to do the 45, 50-minute commute to Pearson, park the car, get into the airport, go to your gate, do all that. I mean, if you traveled through there, you know how hectic it can be, especially coming from Hamilton. You always run into traffic if you're driving that way or driving home, unless, of course, you take the 407. So having that airport here is super cool. One other thing about it, it's a big commercial airport, so there are a lot of jobs that surround that airport. It's a cool thing that I think is really overlooked by a lot of Hamiltonians, but definitely you should consider utilizing it. Number 5, we have a ton of incredibly diverse neighborhoods. Now, I know I touched on the culturally, but this is diverse in terms of lifestyles that you want. What I mean by that is we have a downtown core. If you want to be somebody that wants to work, live downtown, don't want to own a car, you want to walk for your groceries, walk to go to nightlife, walk to go to restaurants, you want that kind of young, bustling life, it's absolutely there. We do also have the option, on the Hamilton Mountain where you get these more suburban areas that are quieter, more family oriented, and as well, really depending on your budget, you can pick what kind of area you want to fit into, whether you want the big lots, or you want the bigger homes, or you want to be in the condo. We just have so many styles of homes, areas, locations that really, really suit the needs of anybody. That's why I really think that there is a place for everybody in Hamilton, depending on the lifestyle that you want to live. Anyways, I know these are just 5 pros that I came up with. I'm sure there are many more. If you guys have a pro, go ahead and drop that in a comment below. I would love to hear what you have to say and what some of your favorite parts of the city are. Now let's touch on some of the cons when it comes to living in Hamilton. And I want to remind you that I'm not talking about these cons in a sense that it's meant to be critical. This is why Hamilton, you shouldn't move here. It sucks. No, this is just meant areas that I think that Hamilton could see some room for improvement that would really, really help elevate our city to the next level. So, number one, pretty obvious. I don't know, maybe not, but it's got to be stated. Hamilton has become pretty expensive. That's in terms of home prices and rental prices. Recently, the number just got released. The average rental price for a 2-bedroom unit in Hamilton is just over the $2,100 a month mark. So this has become incredibly expensive compared to what it used to be. Obviously, the rents have increased as home prices have increased. Home prices increased over the last few years because of low interest. But also one thing that Hamilton really got affected by, and I hear a lot about, but I don't think it's a bad thing. We had a lot of people come from the GTA to Hamilton, especially during COVID, because our prices were so much cheaper. You were able to get out of your condo and come into a nice detached house, into a nice area, and start that family life. As well, we had the GO train sort of supporting that. The GO train started running every hour on the hour from Hamilton to Union Station. So that really affected the growth of Hamilton. It brought a flood of people here, and it made it quite a bit more expensive over the last few years. So just be prepared if you're looking to buy here or rent here. Understand that the rents are going to be higher. And with that said, especially I was reading an article recently that even these student rentals, students are on average paying 20% more for a rental than just a regular tenant. So that was something I read recently I thought was pretty interesting. Number two, factories. If you've driven past Hamilton, you know that there's factories there. If you've come over the Burlington Bridge, if you've come from the GTA, you've gone towards Niagara Falls, you've probably passed the factories. There's no way you can miss them. And for me, I personally hate that it is one of the things that you see when you're driving over that bridge past Hamilton. You look and you think, what the heck? This city looks terrible because of these factories. And it really is in that East End. Now, one cool thing is, they are an eyesore to look at, but they are a huge, huge employer for this city. They hire a lot of people. They provide great jobs, great incomes, which is a benefit to everybody in the city that we do have such a large employer here. I'm going to use this to transition into my con number 3 is our waterfront is very lacking. And the reason I'm saying this is a lot of these factories are right on our waterfront, which kind of takes away from the magic of what a waterfront should be, like Toronto, Burlington, that sort of thing. However, the city and some developers have made a conscious effort to try and improve this. What I'm talking about is the development down in the northwest end there that they're doing. They are completely revamping and revitalizing that waterfront by putting condos, townhouses. There's going to be shops. There's going to be boardwalk, all that sort of thing, which is really going to improve the quality of life down in that area. In fact, go back. I did a video on it. Go back and watch that video. It's full of great information about that development that you're not going to want to miss. But that would be a con. I think right now it's lacking, but I think we are on the way to improving that. And maybe eventually you'll be able to drive over the Burlington Bridge and not see a factory, but who knows what's going to happen in the future. Number 4, this is one, I don't know. It's a con that I thought. So I've noticed that, Remax, we just got the stats that the amount of people from the States looking into Ontario to purchase or come to rent or move here apparently has increased on the Remax website by over 2,000%. So I know Americans are watching, so I just wanted to throw this one in there. The weather. Okay. If you're from Hamilton, or just Ontario in general, or Canada, you know that the weather is one of the hottest topics to talk about because sometimes we'll experience all four seasons in a day. For instance, as I'm here filming this morning, it was freezing cold. I had a coat on. Then it started a torrential downpour, and now it's sunny and hot out. Like I'd be sweating in this suit. I just don't get it. But I mean, that is what it is. We love talking about our weather here because it drains so drastically. It changes so drastically. You're either super hot or you're super freezing cold and there's tons of snow. I find like there's really only maybe a couple weeks that it's kind of that comfort zone where you're feeling just great with the weather before it shifts. But there's no real in between. We get a lot of extremes here. So just be conscious if you are moving to Hamilton, Ontario, and you're not from Canada, be prepared for the weather. It is going to hit you and it's going to hit you hard. Number 5, I want to talk about, I think that our public transit within the city is lacking. Now, I know that there are efforts to this with the LRT coming in, which has been a huge point of contention because, well, right now Hamilton is really just dependent on its bus system. But this light rail transit is supposed to connect East Hamilton to West Hamilton down one of the main streets in the city. This is great for people that use public transit because it's going to be able to allow you to move from one end of the city pretty easily and hopefully will be more efficient than buses. I know a huge point of contention is that it is going to shut down lane on a major artery in Hamilton. And a lot of people are worried that when this comes in, it's going to cause a huge amount of congestion for people driving. But I guess with the LRT, maybe to eliminate some people having to drive, they'll choose to take it instead of driving. One thing that doesn't really exist is a great system to get from the mountain down the mountain other than buses. So if you're looking to go out downtown and you live on the mountain, you're pretty much looking at an Uber or a cab. Buses really wouldn't be the way to go. So that's the only thing. And as far as I know right now, there's nothing in the pipeline to sort of improve that transit and that sort of movement. So the public transit, I'd say, is lacking a little bit. But those are my 5 cons. I'm sure that you guys have a bunch of cons yourselves. I'd love it if you would actually drop a comment. I want to know what you think of the city we should see improve, what you don't like, what you do like. I'd love to hear from you. Always love the comments. But other than that, thank you so much again for tuning in this week. You don't know how much I appreciate it. I always appreciate every single view on this video, everybody that likes it, everybody that comments. Thank you so much for your continued support. Making these videos week in and week out is a ton of work, but I enjoy doing it, and I really appreciate all the love and feedback I get from every single one of you that watches and every single one of you that subscribes. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, because every time you like it, this is going to push the video in front of people that want more information like this. Anyways, once again, thanks for joining, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.